Come here, baby. Come on. Come on, Bressie. I won't jump. Oh. It's all right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. There we go. Good man, Bressie.
Makeup all over me.
Ooh, I got to tweet that now.
He's going to get beard rash. So we're going to do a panel. And I think these panels are amazing. I think they're brilliant because not only are they people telling their personal stories, they're highly successful people. People who've achieved. And people who've been at the top of their game telling their stories. Which proves one thing and a point that I've always made about mental health. If you go through depression or you go through anxiety issues, I truly believe you have an edge. I do. I believe if you use it the right way, you can turn it around to have an edge. You just have to, it takes time. You've got to be patient. You've got to find the right way for yourself. And I think by introducing these people, I have to stand, by the way. They didn't even give me a bloody seat. So I might sit behind the drum kit, if that's all right. But I'd love to introduce Alan Quinlan, Sheamus Hennessy, Ellie McNamara from the Heathers,
It's a bit different today.
and the incredible Conor Cusack. Come on, lads. That's a bit. Come on. There you go. How he is. How scabby is this? I didn't get a seat. So is there anywhere like? No, I'll sit on the ground. I can't have a bad back. You see, I'm not looking for sympathy, but. Oh yeah. Okay, you can give it to me if you want it. Sorry. Where are you going? It's like one of those horrible seats you get, you know, those hotels down the country for your wedding. But I'll take it. How are you, lads?
Good.
So, Ellie, having a creative brain, a musician, a songwriter, can often be your best friend, but at times your thoughts can just never stop and your head can completely keep going. And we all know that thoughts can sometimes become a little bit irrational. What has been your journey with your creativity and your mental health?
Well, just as you said, my mind never ever switches off, and I think that's one of the biggest things that I've had to deal with and learn to cope with. When I was around 19 or 20, I started getting panic attacks, and I thought I was going crazy, and I thought that it would never end. And at first it was kind of maybe once a month or something like that, and then it was every single day, if not more than once a day. And for me, a panic attack is a kind of out-of-body experience where I can't breathe, I can't see, I can't hear anything that's going on. I feel like tearing my own skin off. It sounds pretty dramatic, but for any of you out there who have battled with panic attacks, you probably know that that's just what it's like. And at the same time, you know, I think this was right in the middle of when we were writing our most recent album, Kingdom. So I was just, like, Louise was over here writing songs, writing tunes. I couldn't get up in the morning. I was just an absolute mess. And that's when I said, this has to stop, I have to do something about it. So I went to my family doctor, and he was amazing. And the first thing he said was, you are not going crazy. And that was probably the most important thing for me to hear, because I remember saying to my mum one morning, I'm so scared that I'll never feel happy again. And it's one of the most terrifying feelings, I think. And I'm sure some people have felt the same way, but it really is so, so scary. But that's when things started to change. And I went to see a counsellor for 2 years. And she gave me ways of dealing with my anxiety and my panic attacks. And for me, those things are, first of all, having a routine to the day. So if I wake up and I feel out of sorts, I can tell now, I know when I'm going to have a bad day, because I kind of feel kind of frustrated and just a bit antsy. So I plan my day out so I know exactly what I'm going to do, because routine for me is like my best friend. And then I make sure I go for a walk, go for a run, go to the gym, get some form of exercise, because my anxiety comes from frustration and I just need to get that out of my system. I make sure that I eat as healthy as possible and that I surround myself with nice people who make me feel good about myself. I think that's a really, really important thing to do as well. I also try to stay off the internet, because the internet is amazing It's so wonderful, but at the same time, for me, on my low days, it can just bring me right down. So I just stay away from the internet. And I think the biggest thing that I do is I just tell someone. So if I wake up, I'm having a bad day, I go to my mum, I go to my sister, go to my friends, and I just say, I'm having a bad day. And they immediately, it's just a weight lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I can get through the day, and it's someone there to support me. And I think that's the most important thing for me. And I think that over the course of the past maybe 4 years, my life has changed through using those different techniques constantly, every single day, and just staying positive and, you know, taking each day as it comes, not thinking too far ahead, not dwelling on the past, and just living. So.
Thank you very much. Literally every word you said is something that personally I can relate to, and it's, you know, it's always good, my head nodding like that, like I'm only actually trying to be nice, but I actually, everything you say is something that I've experienced myself. Alan, we in some weird way come from a similar background. We both played professional rugby. We were meant to be macho, perfect, 100%, nothing wrong with us. We can run through brick walls. But that's not how life works, and that's not how mental health works. You've had an interesting journey with your mind, and you know you still are quite open. That's, you know, you do still have your low days and tougher days. How has your journey been with it, and how coming out and speaking openly about it helped?
It's been very fulfilling for me. I think you mentioned there about rugby, being a professional athlete. I think for any sports person or any people who have success in any sport or in business or whatever, I think there's a perception there that just because you're achieving things and you're successful, that everything is good in your life, and you kind of buy into that a little bit, and I did. You know, I left school when I was 16, I qualified as a mechanic for 5.5 years, and then I went playing professional rugby, and it was kind of an upward journey of success. You know, I was pretty determined to achieve success and very driven and quite resilient to have success, but I was never really aware of my mental health or anxiety that I would have suffered from. I was always a worrier, worrying about simple stuff and simple things in my life, and never really told anyone. And I think I created this kind of environment for myself where, you know, I never went home to my mum or dad and said that I was worried about stuff, simple little things, and I tried to be kind of, that determination and that drive that I had in me to be successful kind of put me in a place where I didn't want to show any weakness to anybody. So I didn't really share any feelings or problems or worries. And then you start playing rugby for Munster and Ireland, and you're perceived by all your mates and all your family that, well, you're really successful and everything is brilliant. And I've had a very happy life, but I've just had periods in my life where I've been really overwhelmed and struggled with anxiety. And you know, I went to a doctor when I was 21, involved in the rugby, and I don't have any animosity to the doctor because I think it was a long time ago, and I said, I think I have depression, I think I need some help, and he just kind of put his arm around me and marched me out of his surgery or clinic and said, look, it's just the blues, everyone has that. So it took me kind of 13 or 14 years later to go back to a doctor and say, look, I want to get hold of this. And ever since I started speaking about it and becoming aware of my mental health and really getting a personal understanding of myself, I never really stopped, because Ellie mentioned it, people with anxiety and sometimes people who are driven for success, you can probably relate it, the lads can, you're continuously trying to do stuff and you can't really sit down and relax. So what I've tried to do is learn about my mental health, become aware of what's going on in my head, and slow down a little bit. So I rang Jim the other day and I said, you know, I want to try and come and chat to the kids, because I passionately believe that you mentioned it as well when you were speaking, if we can educate young people, they're the people who are going to kind of inspire society to have empathy around mental health, and to spread the good word, really, stuff that you and Jim are doing and all your volunteers and Conor and the lads, which is phenomenal, I think, because really mental health is about bringing a bit of awareness and an understanding because I've met so many successful people in my journey that come up to me now and say, well, I felt like that, and God, and they're millionaires, they're successful sports people, They run their own businesses and they're completely overwhelmed because they've never really stopped and said, you know, what's going on in here? And just, it can be perceived by some people who are ignorant to the whole thing as negative. You know, when I started speaking about depression and my own anxiety, people were shocked. And then friends started saying to me, well, enough of the depression stuff now, you need to be all positive. And that, there's a stigma around it. So breaking down the stigma, and I think you people out there, the young people, you mentioned the education system, I think that is the way forward. So to kind of normalize what you've been doing and what the lads have been doing is what I would like to see happening as well. And, you know, I still get overwhelmed, I still get a bit frustrated, but I'm not scared of it anymore. You know, I lost a friend to suicide in 2009, a really good friend, and I didn't want to end up like that because, you know, I had suicidal thoughts on occasions, but I don't think I would ever acted out on them. But it's kind of sad that you feel like that because, you know, life is tough and life is challenging, but life should be about enjoyment and happiness as well. And people with anxiety, and I was a real common case for that, and you see a lot of negative stuff rather than seeing the positives. So I have to kind of reel myself in sometimes now and see the positives, all the wonderful things that are around me. And by becoming aware of my mental health, I have the capacity to change and do that when I'm having a bad day or when I feel overwhelmed. I kind of put things in perspective. And that's the big difference for me. Before, I wasn't able to do that. I wasn't able to kind of see the positives and see my own true value. And the big thing is awareness of your mental health. And it's been a really inspiring and fulfilling journey for me. And I think I really believe that young people, they can bring an air of positivity around it, even home to their own houses, to their own families, because everybody has little struggles in life, and it's about kind of bouncing back. And for me, that's what mental health and awareness is about.
Thank you very much, Al. And I think Alan makes a very valid point, and we'll all agree, the most creative, the most incredible, the best sportsmen, the best businessmen, the best every people I've met are people who have dealt with their own mental health, have dealt with mental health issues and been aware of them. And Alan spoke about having a little bit of compassion for yourself, something that I spoke about. That's something that's going to recur. You have to have compassion for yourself. It's a tough old world, and if you don't every now and again stop to tap yourself in the back, you're going to find it more difficult. And
just if I could say, because I know we're cut for time, it's about being nice to yourself as well.
Yeah.
Because people who are pretty driven, and I'm sure the lads can relate to this, you can, we push. It's kind of a natural thing, and we're kind of driven for success, and especially for young people out there. I got into bad habits when I was young about closing up, not really showing weakness, and being hard on myself. So sometimes we have to just relax a little bit and not take ourselves so seriously, and be really happy with what we have, and still you can be driven and determined for success. But people with anxiety and depression, it's always, they're being hard on themselves. And the sooner you can get out of that kind of being hard on yourself situation, you grow a bit and you understand yourself, and you kind of I nearly laugh at it now a little bit. But one common thing that has helped me so much, something I never did in my life up to when I was 35, I never shared. I never spoke to my mom, to my coaches, to my friends, and showed any sort of weakness. And the one thing that helps me now is sharing. So I ring my mom and I say, look, I'm worried about this, ma'am, and can you help me? And or one of my mates. And then a small perceived problem that I think is massive is actually small, and they just say, well, just do this, and this, and I'll help you, and I'll give you a lift somewhere, and I'll go with you, whatever. And it's just gone. So make sure you share with someone and have empathy for the people around you. Because there's loads of people out there, and I keep trying to say this as well, people who are well and they don't have any anxiety or depression, and you know, I won't say normal because we're all normal, but people who don't share. It's really important that those people have some empathy, because I love meeting people now who don't have depression or anxiety, and they say, fair play, or I understand you, and I can help you. That is massive for people with depression or anxiety. So remember, for your friends, have some empathy for the people around you, and be grateful that you don't have depression or anxiety, but make sure you help them as well. Okay, I'll shut up now.
I was just saying,
get on to the lads.
Alan, I played rugby against you once or twice. You might have been hard on yourself, but you were kind of hard on everyone else on the pitch as well. I remember having quite a kidney problem after a slight stamping issue when we played Munster, but you don't remember that. I do. Sheamus, when I first heard your story, and I've heard it a few times, it was, you know, every now and again you hear the story and it really gets a voice around your neck, and you really think about it. And it's not just your story, it's the passion you have to go along with your story, the passion you have to actually to get the message out there. You're probably one of the most passionate people I've heard speak about this. What has your journey been? And I know some of it has been incredibly difficult and personal.
Yeah, thanks. Well, my connection here is when I was 11, I lost my mum to suicide. And I could get into a conversation about the really difficult parts because, you know, we've all lost people in different ways that die. And there's incredible grief. There's a huge amount of disappointment. There's the idea I don't know where to turn. I was 11 and I had no idea what I was going to do without a mother in my life. But instead, what I'd like to do is I'd like in a perverse form of way to tell you the good things that have come as a result of that. So the number one best thing that's happened in my life, and it's been as a result of, unfortunately, losing my mother, is the relationship that I developed with my father. My dad has become my mum, my dad. I don't have any brothers or sisters, so he's become one of them. And he's become my best friend. So we no longer view each other as a parent-child relationship. We're two friends that happen to be 35 or so years apart in their age, that's all. We've got incredibly close. We cycle together, we walk together, we talk on the phone more times every day than drives me crazy, but we talk a lot. And we have developed a huge connection to each other. You know, teenagers and men and boys in Ireland, we tend to sometimes push our dads away. We say, no, Dad, leave me alone, I'm a man myself. I've had the very opposite. I've had my dad him and I come totally together. And one of the best things he's ever done for me was when I was 11, he brought me to see a group called Rainbows. There was a counselling group. I met a nun, Sister Nora. I was actually with Bressie and Ellie in Bressie Panel in Tipperary before Christmas, and I met her for the first time in 14 years. And it was a really special moment. He brought me to her. I spent time with a group of 8 or 10 other children my age. We played football, we played basketball, and without knowing it, we talked. We talked about how we felt. We talked about our experience. We talked about what we'd done each day, and it allowed me at that age to develop coping mechanisms to deal with what I was going through. And the third key thing, I had my dad, I had some counselling, and the third key thing, I had friends. And if you take one thing from me today, please take the idea that in Ireland or in the world actually as teenagers, don't count your friends by the number of them that you have, by the number on Facebook, by the number on Twitter, by the number of Snapchat stories you get from your friends. Count your friends, in my eyes, by how kind you are to them, how much you're willing to listen to them, and when the going gets tough for your friends, whether you stand with them or not. And all three work the reverse. How kind they are to you, how much they'll listen to you, and when the going gets tough for you or things get a little bit blue, whether they stand by you. I had a couple of friends, a very small number of people in my life, a couple of younger, a couple a lot older, and I still have them today, that on those three counts, they're how I view my friends. You know, social media has created a brand new world, and it can't but be a difficult world for teenagers, I think, today in some ways. It's an incredible advantage, but it can also be quite tough. Like Ellie talks about avoiding the internet. I would talk about not viewing your friends as the number of requests you've got, or the number beside your name, or that race to get to 1,000, or 2,000, or whatever else. View your friends by who they are, how you treat them, how they treat you, and ultimately by the relationships you have with them. My dad has become my best friend on those three counts. He's no longer a father to me. He's a friend. He listens to me. He's there when things get hard. I started a new job Monday, and I rang him. I was outside the office at 10 to 9 Monday morning. I rang him, Dad, I don't know what I'm to do. I don't know who I'm to meet, what's going on. He just goes, relax. Somebody will be there for you. Somebody will bring you in, sit you down. You're all right. I was anxious about it and getting sweaty and like sweat stains on your shirt and stuff. It's horrid. But you get through it. So if anything, try and think about redefining friendship and what friends are to you, because when the going gets tough, your friends can be there. Your friends are people who can pull you through and who you can pull through. There's nothing, I heard Bressie and Conor, and it's one thing that's really resonated. They said, there's nothing greater in the world than being able to help a friend of yours. And I think that's, without question, the one message I'll give. You can really help somebody. Listen, this man is far more interesting to listen to.
Will you stop?
Let him talk.
Sheamus, thanks a million. And Sheamus, I think whatever it is about starting a new job, whatever boss you had giving you a day off 2 days later, it was pretty sound. Conor,
all right, Bressie.
how's it going?
My old flower.
You're an incredibly modest man, and just from my own personal perspective, and the only best way I suppose to introduce you from my side of things is you're almost like a fuel to our passion to want to do what we're doing. Hearing you speak, hearing how you speak, it makes it easier for us to do it. It makes us want to do more. So you're incredibly you're a catalyst to an awful lot what's going on, including myself personally. I can't speak for everybody, but what you're doing, I refer to you as a silent hero. You don't want high fives, you don't want your back patted, you just want to make a difference. So thank you very much for joining us. I love your story. I could hear it a million times because of, I think it's your accent or something about your accent that makes it like a little bit more, I'm going to listen to him. But Conor, can you share some of your amazing wisdom with us?
Yeah, so look, it's really wonderful to be here, and sorry for being so late. The train coming from Cork was 2 hours delayed in the tracks, but that's typical coming from the backwaters of Cork where I come from. So look, I think a lot of people know my story. You know, similar to Ellie, I was 14 years of age when I first started to experience panic attacks, bullied an awful lot as a young person, and that developed on to this darkness that started into my life that I didn't know what it was. And it wasn't sadness, because I'd known that when my nana died, I'd known that when I'd lost big hurling games with Clyde, I'd known that when I couldn't go to play with my friends for the fear of being bullied. This was something far deeper than sadness. And you know, the really terrible thing back then was, for me, if you heard of somebody that had a difficulty with their mental health, well, then it was somebody that was locked up behind the high wall. And the wonderful thing now in the country is that we have people like the people up here that you can see and you can say, yeah, you know what, you can have an experience of your well-being, but not alone can you manage it, but you can emerge out the other side a far, far stronger person. And, you know, one of the things for me as a young person was that I had an incredibly unhealthy view of myself. I had a very low level of self-esteem. I very often saw myself and my worth and value through the eyes of other people. My hurling was a way for me to get recognition from my dad and the people in the community and to feel important. And you know, if I played well in the hurling game, or if I'd done well in my exams inside in school, then my teachers appreciated me and the people in my community appreciated me. But that's not what we want as human beings. Despite all the illusion and the cover-up and the deception that we engage in, what dwells within the heart of each of us, every single person in here, man and woman, teacher, student, male and female, what dwells within our soul is the desire to be appreciated and loved unconditionally for ourselves. But the question I'd ask is, and especially for young people, how often are young people appreciated and valued just for themselves, just for being them? Or how often, or is it a case that they have to do something? You do this and you'll get that. But that's not what we all really want. And it's the same for us all as adults. And this world isn't a test of your value and worth as a human being, even though most of the messages you get will tell you that. You know, I'm not breaking any trade secrets here, but it's not too long ago that a lot of you guys believed that there was a fat guy who came down the chimney at Christmas and left a few things underneath the tree and ate the carrots and drank whatever he drank. It was a big lie that you were all told. What's to say that a lot of the other messages that you're getting from the world are lies? This world isn't a test of your value and worth as a human being. You know, of all, quantum scientists have now proved that the atoms inside in our bodies, the calcium inside in your bones, the carbon in your muscles, the iron in your blood, once belonged in the fiery heart of long-vanished stars. When you look up into the sky at night and you see the universe and the vast universe, that's where we came from. That's where we belong. We've stopped on our cosmic journey on this earth. We're pilgrims on this earth to encounter each other. Not to be in competition with each other, but to meet, to love, and to share. And this is a precious moment. that we all have on our time here on this planet, but it's temporary, as the life of young Donald Walsh and Kerry has so vividly shown. If we can perhaps share this moment with a bit more authenticity, a bit more kindness, a bit more love, then we'll allow more of us to feel that unconditional love that we all desire. I travel all over the world, and it's an incredible thing to think that of all the billions of people that have ever existed, all the billions of people that will come after you, there'll never again be another person in this world that'll be exactly like you. There'll never again be another person that'll look exactly like you, that will think exactly like you, that will walk exactly like you. You're an incredible phenomenon, a once-off happening in the universe, never ever again to be repeated. I mean, how awesome is that? You sat back in your chair and thought about that. You're completely unique. So comparing yourself to others is futile, because there's nobody else in the world like you. But how often is that message found in you? And the reality is that if it's the same for the person sitting here, it's the same for the person that's sitting alongside you. So this world isn't a test of your value and worth as a human being. That's a given. You're a once-off happening, unique person that's deserving of all of that. And the key thing that we need within our schools is that we allow that opportunity and that atmosphere to permeate all that we're doing. Because even the bullies that were tormenting me and making my life a misery as a young person, dwelling within the heart of them was a desire to be loved. Even the person that's on Facebook and saying nasty things about you, dwelling within their heart is a desire to be loved. Even on the hurling fields that I've played on for many years and fullbacks breaking my bones, the 12 bones that they've broken, even dwelling inside in their hearts at some place, maybe very, very far down, I'd say, is a desire to be loved. So everything you do, each time you engage in something that lessens the presence of another person, it's because there's some part of you that needs to be loved. And it's something that we all need to recognize. And the wonderful thing is, as human beings and as students, despite all the difficulties that we might have, we have an immense capacity to be able to find meaning and understanding in what's going on for us in our worlds. And sometimes those worlds can be engulfed in toxic levels of stress or anxiety or darkness. And the wonderful thing nowadays is, not like when I was 19 years of age and there was nowhere to turn to, is that you know now you're not alone. You're not alone in your struggles. There's many people in your shoes. But the wonderful thing also is that you can see, you have visible expressions of people that have had those difficulties and have emerged from them. And the final thing I want to finish on is, I had a young person that I was supporting. One of the difficulties I had when I was growing up, I saw Al Porter on the television the other night, and he said he had to jump back into the closet. Well, one of the difficulties I had as a young person was trying to embrace my own sexuality. And I had a young person that I was supporting a small bit over the last few weeks. And sadly, he threw himself into a river last week and ended his precious life. All because of whom he chose to love. But his difficulty wasn't with whom he chose to love. It was the environment that was around him. There's no person emerges from their mother's womb feeling less than as a human being. Feeling that they don't belong, feeling that they're not of worth. It's society that creates that. It's society that created that atmosphere for that young man to feel that his life wasn't precious enough and that he had to end it because of whom he chose to love. And society is only ever a collection of individuals. And all of you are individuals within that society. And all of you have an immense power and a sacred responsibility to ensure that all of our students, whether they be LGBT, whether they have difficulties with their well-being, whether it's anxiety or stress or difficulties in relationships or financial difficulties or depression, we all, you all, teachers and students united, have a sacred responsibility to ensure that your schools become a sanctuary where those people that are experiencing difficulties that way can feel the necessary support and love that I got in my life and that without I would not be here today. And I wish you all the very best in ensuring that you create that within your schools.
Thank you, Conor. And I just, on behalf of Conor, want to apologise if anyone still does believe in Santa. He didn't mean that. I mean, it's all there. I mean, these are all people, and we're all people that want to not let you become generation anxiety.
We can't make you change. We can just make you feel okay about things. That's what we're here for. We're here to create awareness. It's up to you. You know, this is not an easy journey, but it is dealable with. It is completely dealable and it's manageable. It can be tough at times, as the stories you've heard. I would just like to thank everybody for giving your time, and countlessly, and without question, throughout the country, in schools, in universities, in businesses, you've all gone, you've all spoken, you've all given your time, not because, as I said, you want your back patted, because you want to save lives, and there's a huge difference. And that's what's happening here. I would like also, Alan wants to read out a quick poem before we all go, but thanks a million for listening. Thanks a million for Cycle Against Suicide putting this on. It was a huge success last year. It's going to grow, it's going to grow, and it's going to grow until we're going to put someone in the 3 Arena before this place becomes too small. It's going to get bigger, and I think you're part of it. You're part of the initial journey, so thanks a million. Alan?
It's not that quick, Bressie. I was telling.
Did you write it?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a poem here I just want to read out. Just before I go, because I won't say anything after it, I want to just say what Jim Breen is doing, what Bressie is doing, and what all the volunteers, the people here in the T-shirts, and Conor, Sheamus and Ellie, and everyone who does that, all the volunteers throughout Ireland, but particularly today, the lads are an inspiration to me. It's just phenomenal to listen to them, to hear Conor's passion, to try and help people and change people's lives. Everybody has a story. We all have our own individual stories, and it's important that, as Conor said, they're respected, and that you have a kind of a place to go and speak to someone, and people respect your story. But what Jim and Bressie are doing, and Conor, is just phenomenal. So I think they deserve a great round of applause, and all the volunteers as well who helped them. So this is a poem that I often read when I'm not feeling so good myself. It's given me great hope and inspiration. So it's called The Race by D.H. Groberg. Quit, give up your beating, they shout at me and plead. There's just too much against you now, this time you can't succeed. And as I start to hang my head in front of failure's face, my downward fall is broken by the memory of a race. And hope refills my weakened will as I recall that scene, for just the thought of that short race rejuvenates my being. A children's race, young boys, young men, how I remember well. Excitement sure, but also fear, it wasn't hard to tell. They all lined up so full of hope, each thought to win the race, or tie for first, or if not that, at least take second place. And fathers watched from off the side, each cheering for his son, and each boy hoped to show his dad that he would be the one. The whistle blew and off they went, young hearts and hopes afire. To win and be the hero there was each young boy's desire. And one boy in particular, whose dad was in the crowd, was running near the lead and thought, my dad will be so proud. But as they speeded down the field across a shallow dip, the little boy who thought to win lost his step and slipped. Trying hard to catch himself, his hand flew out to brace, and mid the laughter of the crowd, he fell flat on his face. So down he fell, and with him hope he couldn't win it now. Embarrassed, sad, he only wished to disappear somehow. But as he fell, his dad stood up and showed his anxious face, which to the boy so clearly said, get up and win the race. He quickly rose, no damage done, behind a bit that's all, and ran with all his mind and might to make up for the fall. So anxious to restore himself, to catch up and to win, his mind went faster than his legs, he slipped and fell again. He wished then he had quit before with only one disgrace. I'm hopeless as a runner now, I shouldn't try to race. But in the laughing crowd he searched and found his father's face, that steady look which said again, get up and win that race. So up he jumped to try again, 10 yards behind the last. If I'm going to gain those yards, he thought, I've got to move real fast. Exerting everything he had, he regained 8 or 10, but trying hard to catch the lead, he slipped and fell again. Defeat he lay there silently, a tear dropped from his eye. There's no sense running anymore, 3 strikes, I'm out, why try? The will to rise had disappeared and hope had fled away. So far behind, so error-prone, a loser all the way. I've lost, so what's the use, he thought, I'll live with my disgrace. But then he thought about his dad, who soon he'd have to face. Get up, an echo sounded low, get up and take your place. You were not meant for failure here, get up and win the race. With borrowed will, get up, it said, you haven't lost at all, for winning is no more than this, to rise each time you fall. So up he rose to run once more, and with a new commit, he resolved that win or lose, at least he wouldn't quit. So far behind the others now, the most he'd ever been, still he gave it all he had and ran as though to win. 3 times he'd fallen stumbling, 3 times he rose again. Too far behind to hope to win, he still ran to the end. They cheered the winning runner as he crossed the line first place, head high and proud and happy, no falling, no disgrace. But when the fallen youngster crossed the line last place, the crowd gave him the greatest cheer for finishing the race. And even though he came in last with head bowed low and proud, you would have thought he'd won the race to listen to the crowd. And to his dad he sadly said, I didn't do so well. To me you won, his father said, you rose each time you fell. And now when things seem dark and difficult to face, the memory of that little boy helps me in my race. For all of life is like that race, with ups and downs and all you have to do to win is rise each time you fall. Quit, give up, you're beaten, they still shout in my face, but another voice within me says, get up and win that race. That's it, thank you.
Thank you very much. Ellie, Alan, Sheamus, Conor, thank you so much. Thanks everyone, enjoy the rest of your day.